Okay, so today we have to start with IGCSE Physics, May June 2025, paper 4, variant 3, 1 hour 15 minutes का ये पेपर है. Let's start with it. ठीक है, बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. Okay. A car travels at a speed of 20 meters per second. Okay. The driver applies the brake when he sees a red traffic light. Okay, भाई ये कार ट्रैवल कर रही है with a speed of 20 meters per second. ड्राइवर जो है वो ब्रेक अप्लाई करता है व्हेन ही सीज अ रेड ट्रैफिक लाइट. ओके. फिगर 1.1 shows the speed time graph for the car. Okay. Determine the speed of the car at time t is equal to 2 seconds. So I think we will have to zoom in here. So we have to determine the speed at time t is equal to 2 seconds. किस तरह determine करेंगे speed at time t is equal to 2 seconds. 2 seconds में बेटा देखो speed ये है. This is the speed at 2 seconds. What is the speed? हाँ जी ये speed क्या है 11.5. मिडल में ना 11 और 12 के. So this will be 11.5 meters per second. Sir, how do you know this is 11.5? Can you realize we are going from a value of 10 to a value of 15? 5 units cover हो रहे हैं. We are covering 5 units and how many boxes? 5 boxes. One box will be equal to what? 1 unit. Perfect. बीच में क्या आ जाएगा 11.5. Simple. Calculate the distance traveled by the car between time t is equal to 0 and time t is equal to 4 seconds. Basically, you have to remember कौन सा की पॉइंट रिमेंबर करना है बेटा. एरिया अंडर speed time graph is equals to distance. Area under speed time graph is equals to distance. तो हमने ये एरिया निकालना है. We have to calculate the area under the speed time graph. That is this distance we have to calculate. What is this? बेटा ये क्या चीज है? What is this thing? हाँ जी. We have to calculate this. What is this? ये क्या चीज है? ये एक ट्रेपीजियम है. This is a sort of a trapezium. This entire yellow highlighted area is what? Is a trapezium. How do we calculate the area of a trapezium? हाँ जी एरिया ऑफ अ ट्रेपीजियम किस तरह निकालते हैं बेटा. एरिया ऑफ अ ट्रेपीजियम इज इक्वल टू 1/2 into sum of parallel sides into the height. Okay. What are your parallel sides here? This one. ठीक है ये आपकी parallel sides है. That is 0.5. And this is also your parallel side. That is 4. What is your height? Height is 20. Okay. हाइट क्या है बेटा 20 है. एंड आपकी पैरेलल साइड्स क्या है 0.5 एंड 4. हाइट क्या है 20. कैन यू कैलकुलेट द एरिया. यप. area is equal to 1/2 into sum of parallel sides 0.5 plus 4 into the height that is 20. This becomes 1. This becomes 10. 4.5 into 10. This gives you an answer of 45 meters as your distance traveled. Your distance traveled by the car is 45 meters. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, nothing complicated here. इससे आसान क्या सवाल देगा एकदम. Calculate the deceleration. Okay, you have to calculate the deceleration of the car between time t is equal to 0.5 seconds and time t is equal to 4 seconds. Whenever you have a speed time graph, the first key point that you must remember is this area under speed time graph is equal to distance. What is the second key point? Gradient of speed time graph क्या होता है? Gradient of a speed time graph is equal to your acceleration. So let's calculate the acceleration. Let's take 2 points. Let's take a different color. Let's zoom in a bit so that we can identify the points pretty clearly and accurately. Okay, so this is what x-axis में 0.5, y-axis में 20. Okay, what is the other point बेटा. दूसरा point क्या है ये वाला. This is what x-axis में 4, y-axis में 0. So let's write it down. You have 2 points, 0.5 and 20, and the next point is 4 and 0. Okay. This is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. Can you calculate the gradient? Yes, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What is the value of y? 0. What is the value of y1? 20. What is the value of x2? 4. What is the value of x1? 0.5. Minus 20 divided by 3.5. What does your answer comes out to be? हाँ जी, -20 divided by 3.5. आपका क्या आंसर आ गया बेटे? Your answer comes out to be -5.71. You can say that if you want to. Now, remember that we have to state deceleration. The negative sign is already incorporated. You will just write 5.7 correct to two significant figures. The unit of deceleration or acceleration are ms minus 2. The units of deceleration or acceleration are ms minus 2. If you don't want to write ms minus 2, you can write meters per second square. Meters per second. See, these two units are same. Meters per second square is same as ms minus 2. Sir, how? This is what meters divided by second square. If you bring the second square to the top side, second की power becomes -2. Simple. Both of these units are same. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's move ahead. Okay, let's zoom out. Figure 2.1 shows a space vehicle which consists of a capsule and a nose cone. Okay. The space vehicle is moving at a constant velocity of what? 7,800 meters per second. The mass of the space vehicle is this. Okay. Show that the momentum of the space vehicle is approximately this. You have to calculate the momentum of the space vehicle mass into velocity. What is the mass of the space vehicle? 840. What is the velocity of the space vehicle? Hanji, what is the velocity of the space vehicle? 7800. What does your momentum comes out to be? Let's calculate that. 840 into 7800. This comes out to be 6.55 10 raised to the power of 6. What are the units of momentum? Kg, meters per second. Simple. The capsule ejects the nose cone as shown in figure 2.2. Okay. Determine the velocity v of the capsule after the nose cone is ejected. Give your answer to three significant figures. Now the examiner is specifically stating that we have to give our answer till three significant figures. We will apply the principle of conservation of momentum. What does principle of conservation of momentum states? Momentum before collision or before explosion is equals to the total momentum after explosion. The total momentum before explosion is same as the total momentum after explosion. What is the total momentum before explosion? 6.55 into 10 raised to the power of 6. 6.55 into 10 raised to the power of 6. What is the total momentum after collision? You have a mass of 120 kg traveling at a velocity of 7850 plus a mass of 720 traveling at a velocity of v. Can you calculate this velocity v? Can you calculate this velocity v? Yes. 6.55 into 10 raised to the power of 6 minus 120 into 7850 divided by 720 will give you your velocity. What does your answer of velocity comes out to be? Can any genius in the chat calculate this? The answer of velocity correct to three significant figures comes out to be 7790 meters per second. Simple. Let's further move ahead. A different space capsule returns to Earth. Okay. Figure 2.3 shows this capsule just before it lands in the sea. Okay. The capsule travels at terminal velocity. What do we mean by terminal velocity? The upward force is equals to the downward force in terminal velocity. Okay. The upward vertical force on the capsule is this. Okay, this is the upward force on the capsule, 120 kilo Newton. What will be the downward force? The downward force will also be the same. But remember that this downward force of the capsule will be equal to the weight that will also be equal to 120 kilonewton. Why? Because whenever you are at a terminal velocity, the upward force is equal to the downward force. The upward force is 120 kilonewton. Downward force will also be 120 kilonewton. And downward force represents the weight. Your weight is 120 kilonewton. Weight का formula क्या है? M into G. 120. In place of kilo, you will write 10 raised to the power of 3. What is the mass we have to calculate? Mass is equals to 120 into 10 raised to the power of 3 divided by 9.81. What does your value of mass comes out to be? 120 into 10 raised to the power of 3 divided by 9.81. Mass की value comes out to be what? 12232. Correct to two significant figures, this will become 1200 kg. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, nothing complicated here. Also, one more thing, you will take 9.8, not 9.81. Here you can write a key point. Here you can write a key point. Whenever G is not provided, whenever G is not provided in the question, take G is equals to 9.8 ms square. If the question states G is equals to 10 meters per second square, then take G is equals to 10. Simple. So if the question is providing you with the value of G as 10, then take the value of G as 10. If it is not providing, then take it as 9.8. Very simple rule to remember. Let's further move ahead. Figure 3.1 shows an archer aiming, aiming an arrow at the target. Okay. The archer pulls on the bowstring, doing a total of 110 joules of work. Her hand moves a distance of 0.45. The bow is bent and stores energy. Show that the average force applied by the archer in pulling the string is approximately this. Okay, you have to calculate the average force. How will you do that? Beta, do you remember work done is equals to force into distance? What is the work done? 110. You have to calculate the force. What is the distance? 0.45. Force किसके इक्वल आ जाएगी बेटा 110 divided by 0.45. Can you calculate the value of force? 110 divided by 0.45. The value of force comes out to be 240 Newton. Simple. Nothing complicated here. 240 Newton is your value of force. Let's further move ahead. The archer releases the bowstring. Okay. All the energy in B is transferred to the arrow. Okay. The arrow travels with an initial speed of V. The arrow has a mass of this. Calculate the initial speed of the arrow. So all this energy is getting transferred into the energy of the arrow, which will be the kinetic energy of the arrow. बेटा ये सारी की सारी एनर्जी किस में कन्वर्ट हो रही है काइनेटिक एनर्जी ऑफ द एरो में so you can write kinetic energy of the arrow is equals to what half mv square 1110 is equals to half into what is the mass 0.03 into the velocity square. Can you calculate the answer of velocity? Yes, 1110 into 2 divided by 0.03. Okay, taken under root. The velocity comes out to be what? Velocity is equals to 85.6. And if I round it off, tell two significant figures, that is 86 meters per second is your initial velocity. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, let's further move ahead. Explain why the speed of the arrow as it hits the target is less than the value in B part 1. Actually, हमने बताना है as the arrow is hitting this target, why does its speed becomes less than 86? बेटा हमने बताना है as the arrow hits the target, आपकी speed less than 86 meters per second क्यों हो जाती है? Why does your kinetic energy decreases? Because energy is lost to the surroundings due to air resistance because energy is lost to the surroundings due to air resistance. Simple as that. Nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. Figure 4.1 shows a copper base on a hot plate. The hot plate heats the pan and water. Okay. So this hot plate, ये पूरी की पूरी जो yellow highlighted चीज है, that is known as hot plate, is made of copper. Okay. Explain how thermal energy is conducted through the copper base. You have to tell how thermal energy is conducted through this metal or through this copper base. You have to tell how thermal energy is conducted through this metal or through this copper base. Let's see. In metal, there are two ways through which you can conduct heat: molecular vibrations. What is the second method through which you can conduct heat in copper base? Free electrons. बेटा आपकी कॉपर बेस में दो तरीकों से हीट ट्रांसफर होती है: molecular vibration and free electrons. So you can write both of them. You can say, first of all, you can say, or the first point you can say here is molecular vibrations. Or in IGCSE physics, the examiner really appreciates if you write lattice vibrations. Molecular vibrations are replaced by lattice vibrations in IGCSE physics. In O-level physics, we write molecular vibrations. In IGCSE physics, we write lattice vibrations. Transfer energy. Transfer energy in copper. What will be your second key point? Free electrons. Free electrons hit or collide with more energetic molecules, more energetic molecules, more energetic molecules, and gain energy. These electrons travel along the metal. These electrons travel along the metal, along the metal, and hit with distant molecules to transfer energy, to transfer energy. Okay. Define in words specific heat capacity. You have to define what is meant by specific heat capacity: energy transferred per unit mass per unit temperature change. You can say energy transferred per unit mass per unit mass per unit temperature change. Simple. Let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते हैं बेटा. A student heats a metal object to 100 degrees centigrade. This is your initial temperature. The student places the metal object in an insulated cup of water at 22 degrees centigrade. This is your initial temperature of water. The final temperature of the water and the object is 31 degrees centigrade. This is the final temperature of both. The specific heat capacity of water is given. Okay, let's say this is CW. Okay. The mass of water is this. Okay, this is the mass of water. This is the mass of metal. Okay. You have to calculate the specific heat capacity of metal. How will you calculate the specific heat capacity of metal? Can you humbly realize? Can you humbly realize that the metal has an initial temperature of 100, final temperature of 31? Metal का temperature is decreasing. That means the metal loses heat. Metal loses heat. Loss in heat of metal. Which object is gaining heat? Water. Water is going from an initial temperature of 22 to a final temperature of 31. You will say gain in heat by water. Okay, so how will you calculate loss in heat? Yeah, loss of heat. Yeah, loss of heat. Loss of heat by metal. How will you calculate this? You will say mass of metal divided by the specific heat capacity of metal. Mass of metal divided by the specific heat capacity of metal into the change in temperature of metal. How will you write the gain in heat by water? Mass of water divided by the specific heat capacity of water into the change in temperature of water. Okay. Furthermore, furthermore, what is the mass of metal? Mass of metal is 54 grams. Now, will you convert this gram into kilograms? No, because your specific heat capacities are given in grams. बेटा जिस यूनिट में आपकी स्पेसिफिक हीट कैपेसिटी होगी उसी यूनिट में आपने अपना मास रखना है। जिस यूनिट में आपकी स्पेसिफिक हीट कैपेसिटी होगी उसी यूनिट में आपने अपना मास रखना है। अगर मास ग्राम्स में है तो अगर स्पेसिफिक हीट कैपेसिटी ग्राम्स में है तो आपने अपना मास ग्राम्स में रखना है। अगर स्पेसिफिक हीट कैपेसिटी आपकी किलोग्राम्स में तो आपने अपना मास किलोग्राम्स में रखना है। Here you can see your specific heat capacity has a mass of grams, hence your mass will remain in grams. 54 into C of metal, change in temperature of metal. Metal is going from 100 to 31. What is the change in temperature? 100 minus 31, that is 69. Okay. Is equals to the mass of water. What is the mass of water? 50. Okay. What is the specific heat capacity of water? 4.2. What is the change in temperature of water from 22 to 31? That is what? 9. Okay. Can you calculate the specific heat capacity of metal? Yes. 50 into 4.2 into 9 divided by 54 into 69. Can you calculate this answer? Yes, sir. 50 into 4.2 into 9 divided by 54 into 69. This comes out to be what? 0.51 joules per gram degree centigrade. This is your answer for a specific heat capacity of the metal. Let's further move ahead. Figure 5.1 shows four rays of red light P, Q, R, and S. Okay, so let's highlight that. These are rays of red light P, Q, R, and S coming from a spotlight in a swimming pool. Okay. Define in words the refractive index for a ray of light traveling from air to water. अच्छा जी हमने refractive index की definition देनी है for a ray of light traveling from air to water. What will you say? Refractive index is the ratio of speed of light in two different mediums. So you can say refractive index is the ratio of speed of light in two different mediums. Simple as that. Nothing complicated here. आगे बढ़ते हैं. On figure 5.1, draw the path of rays P and Q at the water air boundary. Can you realize P is striking the boundary at a 90-degree angle? If your ray strikes the boundary at a 90-degree angle, it will pass undeflected without any direction change like this. Now for Q, let's make a normal first of all like this. Okay. Can you realize you are traveling from water which is more dense into air which is less dense? जब आप more dense material से less dense material की तरफ जाते हो बेटा तो क्या होता है? Your ray reflects या refracts away from the normal like this. Okay. The angle of incidence of ray R is 49 degree. Okay. So here you have a 49 degree का angle of incidence here. Okay. This ray R is in which situation? बेटा ये ray R कौन सी situation को represent कर रही है? Critical angle. Okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Calculate the refractive index of water. Water is the first medium. Can you realize water is the first medium? Now you will ask, sir, what are first mediums? बेटा first medium वो medium होते हैं जहां पे ray start हो रही होती है. फर्स्ट मीडियम वो मीडियम होते हैं जहाँ पे रे स्टार्ट हो रही होती है, वाटर में रे स्टार्ट हो रही है, कैन यू रियलाइज द रे इज स्टार्टिंग इन वाटर, hence water is the first medium. Whenever you have to calculate the refractive index of the first medium, in this case water, you utilize this formula sin r over sin I. What is the angle of refraction? 90 degree, because this is a critical angle case. What is sin I? 49. Okay. So n is equals to sine of 90 divided by sine of 49. Can you calculate the refractive index? Yes. Very easy. 1 divided by sine of 49. This gives you an answer of 1.32 or 1.3, correct to two significant figures. Explain why ray S is totally internally reflected at the water surface. Okay. So we have to explain why this ray S, why ये वाली ray is performing total internal reflection. हमने बताना है कि ये रे टोटल इंटरनल रिफ्लेक्शन क्यों परफॉर्म कर रही है. You will say that the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle of 49 degrees. Hence, it performs total internal reflection. So, let's say that. So, you can say that the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle of 49 degrees. Hence, it performs what? Total internal reflection. Simple. Nothing complicated here. आगे बढ़ते हैं बेटा. Ultrasound is an example of a longitudinal wave. Define the term ultrasound. Sound waves or waves, or you can say sound with a frequency higher than 20 kilohertz. You can say sound waves या फिर sound कह सकते हो. Sound waves कह देते हैं, better लगेगा. Sound waves with a frequency greater than 20 kilohertz, greater than 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. Simple. State what is meant by a longitudinal wave. Yes, what is meant by a longitudinal wave? The direction of disturbance or the direction of vibration is parallel to the direction of propagation. Direction of disturbance is parallel to the direction of wave travel. Direction of vibration or disturbance is parallel to the direction of propagation or wave travel. ठीक है, चलो लेट्स मूव अहेड. आगे बढ़ते हैं. अल्ट्रासाउंड इज यूज्ड टू लोकेट ऑब्जेक्ट्स बिलो द सरफेस ऑफ द सी. ओके, अल्ट्रासाउंड्स आर यूज्ड टू लोकेट ऑब्जेक्ट्स बिलो द सरफेस ऑफ द सी. Describe how ultrasound is used to locate the objects below the surface of the sea. You may draw a diagram as part of your answer. अच्छा जी, आपने बताना है how are ultrasounds used to locate objects under the sea. ठीक है, so what will you say? Ultrasounds are sent into the sea like this. This is the ultrasound transmitter. Let's say this is a fish that we need to detect. This is an ultrasound receiver. Ultrasounds are transmitted to the fish. They hit the fish. They get reflected back to the receiver. You note down the time taken for this travel, divide the time by 2, multiplied by the speed of ultrasound to get the distance. To get the distance as to how much below the surface of the sea this object is located. Describe how ultrasound is used to locate an object below the surface of the sea. How will you start your answer? You will say ultrasounds. Ultrasounds are sent into the sea, yeah, are transmitted would be a better word. Ultrasounds are sent into the sea Sent, transmitted, whatever you want to write. I think transmitted is a better word. Transmitted into the sea, and they get reflected by the object, and they get reflected by the object. Okay. To calculate. To calculate what? To calculate the distance below the sea. To calculate the distance or the depth. To calculate depth. What will you do? To calculate depth, you take the speed of ultrasound. Speed of ultrasound multiplied by what? Time for ultrasound to travel divided by 2. Why have I divided the time by 2? बेटा टाइम टू ट्रैवल को मैंने डिवाइड बाय 2 क्यों किया है? Because you are traveling back and forth. You are traveling back and forth. The ultrasound is traveling first of all, hitting the fish and then reflecting back. This is the time of twice the journey. I want the time of only once the journey. So time of ultrasound to travel divided by 2 into the speed of ultrasound is equal to the depth of the object. State one other use of ultrasound, medical image scanning. Ultrasounds are used in what? Medical image scanning. Simple. Let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते हैं बेटा क्या लिखा हुआ है? A student sets up the circuit shown in figure 7.1. Okay. Determine the value of current measured by the ammeter. If the current here is 0.5 ampere, the current in series remains same at every point. This will also be 0.5 ampere. Okay. Calculate the potential difference across the 6 ohm resistor. How will you do that? V is equals to I here. Current क्या है बेटा 0.5, resistance क्या है 6. Your voltage comes out to be 3 volts across the 6 ohm resistor. Show that the potential difference across the 20 ohm resistor is 9 volts. You have to show that the potential difference across the 20 ohm resistor is 9 volts. How will you do that? This is a 12 volt power supply. This 6 ohm resistor is consuming 3 volts. What will be the remaining voltage? 12 minus 3 is equals to 9 volts. If this branch is getting 9 volts, this will also get 9 volts because both of them are in parallel. You can write here 12 minus 3 is equals to 9 volts. You have to calculate the resistance of R. बेटा आपने resistance of R निकालनी. You have to calculate the resistance of R. How will you do that? First of all, let's calculate the current I2. I2 करंट निकालते हैं. V is equals to IR करते हैं. वोल्टेज 9 है. I2 हमने निकालना है. रेजिस्टेंस क्या है 20. 9 divided by 20. What is I2? I2 comes out to be, I think, 0.45 एम्पेयर. I2 क्या आ गया 0.45 एम्पेयर. बेटा अगर टोटल करंट 0.5 था, ये 0.45 हो गया. व्हाट इज I1? 0.05 एम्पेयर. The voltage across resistance R is 9. You have to calculate resistance. Resistance R is equals to voltage over current. Voltage is 9, current is 0.05. Can you calculate the answer? I think this comes out to be 180 ohms. Yep, easy peasy. Nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. State what is meant by an electric field. A region, a region in a space where a charged particle experiences a force. Where a charged particle experiences a force. A region in a space where a charged particle experiences a force. Simple. Figure 8.1 shows a negative point charge. Okay. Draw 4 field lines. अच्छा negative charge में field lines किस तरह होती हैं? Always inward like this. Always inward like this. Simple. You had to draw 4, you have drawn that. Okay, so there is a potential difference of this. Work done is this. You have to calculate the charge. Voltage is equals to work done over charge. चार्ज किस तरह निकालोगे? चार्ज इज इक्वल टू वर्क डन ओवर वोल्टेज. व्हाट इज द वर्क डन? 4.5 into 10 raised to the power of 5 megajoules. How do we represent mega? 10 raised to the power of 6 divided by the voltage. That is what? 2.9 into 10 raised to the power of 8. What does your charge comes out to be? हाँ जी, charge क्या आ रहा है? Calculated 4.5 into 10 raised to the power of 5, 10 raised to the power of 6 divided by 2.9 into 10 raised to the power of 8. What does your charge comes out to be? 1551. If I convert it to two significant figures, 1600 coulombs. If I convert this answer to two significant figures, 1600 coulombs is your answer. Let's further move ahead. The current in the lamp is 2 ampere. Calculate the charge that flows. Okay, how will you do that? Charge is equals to IT. Current is 2. Time is 120. Charge क्या आ जाएगा? 240 coulombs. Always remember the unit of charge is always coulomb. सही है. Unit of charge क्या होता है? हमेशा coulombs होता है. Okay. Let's further move ahead. Figure 9.1 shows a transformer. Okay. There is an alternating current in the primary coil. Describe how an alternating current is produced in the secondary coil. You have to tell how an alternating current is produced in the secondary coil. How will you tell that? You will say an alternating current in the primary coil generates a changing magnetic field in the primary coil. This changing magnetic field cuts with the secondary coil. As the changing magnetic field cuts with the secondary coil, this generates a changing current or an induced current in the secondary coil. How will you write this? You will say the alternating. I think I will have to zoom in and write very small. The alternating current in the primary coil, generates a changing magnetic field in primary coil. This changing magnetic field cuts with the secondary coil, generating an alternating current in the secondary coil. Simple. Nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ा जाए भाई. A step-up transformer has a turn ratio of 1 to 20. Okay. That means if the number of turns on the primary coil is this, the number of turns on the secondary coil is this. Okay. The voltage across the primary coil is 12 volts. Okay. This is VP. You have to calculate the voltage across the secondary coil. How will you do that? NP over NS is equals to VP over VS. Okay. 1 over 20. VP की value क्या है? 12 over VS. Can you calculate the answer of VS? Yes. 20 into 12. This comes out to be 240 volts. Simple. The power lost in the cable is this. Acha ji. The resistance of the wire is this. You have to calculate the current in the table. You will say power is equals to I square R. Power क्या है? 1.25 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. करंट की वैल्यू हमें नहीं पता बेटा. रेजिस्टेंस क्या है? 0.05 ohms. Can you calculate the answer? 1.25 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. 0.05 taken under root. What does your value of current comes out to be? वैल्यू ऑफ करंट क्या आ जाती है भाई? 0.16 एम्पियर. 0.16 एम्पियर इज योर वैल्यू ऑफ करंट. आगे बढ़ते हैं. State two advantages of using high voltage transmissions. आपका करंट लो हो जाता है एंड इफ करंट becomes low, what is the formula of power loss? I square R. If current becomes low, power losses will be minimized. तो ये आप लिख सकते हो. You can say power losses are minimized. या less power losses, less energy losses, less power and energy losses. Okay, what will be your second advantage? अगर बेटा आपका करंट कम हो रहा है, thinner wires can be used which are cheap. Simple. Let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Define light year in words. Distance traveled by light in 1 year. Okay. It takes 490 seconds to travel light from sun to earth. Calculate the distance. You will say distance is equal to speed into time. Speed क्या है 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8. Time क्या है 490. Can you calculate the distance traveled? हाँ जी, can you calculate the distance traveled बेटा? क्या आ रहा है? What is the distance traveled coming out to be? 1.5 into 10 raised to the power of 11. Easy. Let's further move ahead. Figure 10.1 is a scatter graph showing how the speed of galaxies moving away from the Earth varies with their distances from the Earth. बेटा हबल्स लॉ याद है? IGCSE स्टूडेंट्स हबल्स लॉ याद है? V is equals to H naught D. V is your speed of galaxies plotted on the y-axis. D is the distance of the galaxies from the Earth plotted on the x-axis. इस ग्राफ का ग्रेडियंट क्या हुआ करता था? हबल स्पेस कांस्टेंट. Okay, use the okay. So the see what do we have to do? Use the line of best foot to determine the value of the Hubble space constant. What do we know? That the gradient of this line is equals to the Hubble space constant h naught. So let's take 2 points on this line. Let's take this point 0, comma 0. And which other point can we take? Let's take this point. Let's zoom in a bit. Let's take approximately this point. This is x 100 and y 2.5. Okay. Can you calculate the gradient? Yep. 0, comma 0, x 100, y 2.5. Can you calculate the answer? 2.5 minus 0, 100 minus 0. Now please hold your horses. Y-axis has units of what? 10 raised to the power of 4, and then you have kilo as well. Kilo means what? 10 raised to the power of 3. So y-axis पे आप क्या multiply करोगे? Y-axis पे आप multiply करोगे 10 raised to the power of 4 and 10 raised to the power of 3. What will you multiply on the x-axis? X-axis पे क्या multiply करोगे? 100 into 10 raised to the power of 20 into 10 raised to the power of 3 due to the kilometer into 10 raised to the power of 20 into 10 raised to the power of 3. Can you calculate the Hubble space constant? Easy peasy, just divide it. The Hubble space constant comes out to be 2.5 10 raised to the power of minus 18. 2.5 into 10 raised to the power of minus 18 second minus 1 is your Hubble space constant का unit. Simple as that. आगे बढ़ते हैं बेटा. I hope यहाँ पे तो कोई बात unclear नहीं होगी. Okay, define what is meant by redshift. What is meant by redshift? हाँ जी. Anyone in the chat? Increase in the wavelength of light. Increase in the wavelength of light as galaxies move away from Earth. Increase in the wavelength of light or electromagnetic radiations. Increase in the wavelength of light or electromagnetic radiation as distant galaxies are moving away from Earth. Let's write the complete thing. As distant Galaxies are moving away from Earth. Easy. Nothing complicated here बेटा आगे बढ़ते हैं चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's see this. State what is meant by half life of a radioactive source. Half life of a radioactive source क्या होती है? Time taken for half the nucleus to decay. Time taken for half the nuclei to decay. Easy. Let's further move ahead. Part B पे आ जाओ बेटा क्या लिखा हुआ है? What is written in part B? A protactinium nuclei decays to a uranium nuclei by the emission of a beta particle. Complete the nuclear equation. Whenever a beta particle is emitted, the mass number remains same. Proton number increases by 1 plus beta particle ka symbol. State the change that occurs in the nucleus during the decay. During a beta particle ka decay, what happens? A neutron in the nucleus gets a neutron gets converted into a proton. Simple. आगे बढ़ते हैं. A different element decays by the emission of an alpha particle. Give two reasons why alpha particles are more ionizing. बेटा आपने बताना है why alpha particles are more ionizing. Why? Because first of all they have a greater charge. Second of all they have a greater kinetic energy than beta. Greater charge than beta. Then beta and greater kinetic energy than beta. Simple. I hope this lecture was clear. I hope these past papers were clear. If you have any questions, you can ask in the chat. I will be here to answer.